European brand Opel, or Vauxhall as it's known in the UK, has never really had a whole lot of enthusiasm for plug-in vehicles. At least, that was the case when it was under the wing of former parent company General Motors, while GM's native North American market got the Chevrolet Volt, Cadillac ELR and Chevrolet Bolt EV, and both the Volt and Bolt EV sold in pretty decent numbers. Opel has had a lot less choice. Yes, the first generation Volt was sold in Europe under the Opel nameplate as the Opel Ampera, but Opel really didn't put a lot of work into advertising it. And the US-styled sedan didn't really capture European tastes very well. One of the reasons that GM didn't even bother to bring the second-gen Volt to Europe or other non-North American markets. The Bolt EV, meanwhile, while designed by a Brit living in South Korea, fared even worse, with very limited production for Europe where it was sold as a left-hand drive only Opel Ampera E. Part of the reason for the Opel Ampera E selling so poorly, though, was down to the strained relationships between Opel and GM, which finally sold Opel to Peugeot Citroen, or PSA as it's known in automotive circles, in 2018. While GM still does supply Opel with limited numbers of Ampera E's, and will continue to do so, I presume, until the first generation Bolt reaches the end of its life, PSA is now driving Opel's plug-in portfolio. Since the PSA takeover of Opel, we've heard a fair bit about its plug-in plans. The next generation Opel Corsa, a mainstay of driving schools and budget-conscious drivers, is going to debut next month with an all-electric version available from launch. If I had to guess, I'd suggest too that it will share the electrics and drivetrain of the recently revealed Peugeot 208e, a similarly sized hatch which has always been a direct competitor to the Opel Corsa. Making small electric hatchbacks with ranges of between 300 to 400 kilometres that are ideal for commuters and busy European cities alike is one thing, but Opel has long held a prominent position in the MPV and crossover market in Europe. And earlier this week, we saw what an electrified version of one of those might be like when Opel unveiled the Grandland X plug-in hybrid, a plug-in version of its popular compact crossover with twin 80-kilowatt electric motors, one on each axle, a 1.6-litre turbocharged petrol engine, and a 13.2 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. Based on what we can see thus far, it does appear to be the same plug-in hybrid drivetrain, called Hybrid 4, that PSA has used in the past in its Peugeot 3008 crossover SUV. Interestingly too, it means the Grandland X could be a direct competitor to the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Opel is quoting an all-electric range of 50 kilometres on the WLTP test cycle per charge, which it says should be enough for many Europeans. It actually quotes data that says 80% of Germans travel less than 50 kilometres per day in daily driving to justify this. Unlike many plug-in hybrids, the Grandland X PHEV features an optional 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger, 3.3 as standard, which means a full charge can be achieved in under 2 hours. There's no rapid charging like the Outlander PHEV has, but Opel says that customers will get a free-to-move charging pass with the Grandland X PHEV that will give owners access to upwards of 85,000 charging stations across Europe. Free to Move, in case you're wondering, is the new mobility service from Opel's parent company, PSA. While the Grandland X PHEV will default to electric operation if the battery pack is fully charged, there are the usual other driving modes too to allow customers the option to choose when to operate in electric mode on longer trips. There's also user customizable regenerative braking for single pedal driving. A holdover from the Bolt EV and second generation Volt, there's also Regen on Demand, which Opel says will improve range by up to 10% if used appropriately. Sadly, pricing hasn't yet been announced, but I'm guessing that as the non-plug-in Grandland starts at around €24,000, I'd guess the plug-in hybrid will probably be somewhere between €30,000 and €35,000, and that's my estimate, not actual figures. I should also note too that I'm factoring in sales tax, which in Europe is normally included in the sticker price, not added on top afterwards. We'll see the Grandland X hit the market in the next few months, and Opel says it will be followed closely by the electric Corsa. A little further down the road, it's promising an all-electric Zafira Life MPV, a vehicle that sits in a segment that we've not really seen electric vehicles in all that much, apart from maybe the Nissan ENV200, as well as an electric Vivaro light commercial vehicle and an electric crossover SUV that will replace the outgoing Opel Mokka in the marketplace. Granted, attitudes to electric cars in Europe are a lot different to what they were a few years ago, and yes, Opel now gets to benefit from PSA's electric vehicle roadmap. But it is a nice, refreshing difference to the Opel under GM, where electric vehicles was something of an afterthought and hand-me-down from across the Atlantic. That's it. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.